in a box.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Ashley. Morning,
Good
Jessica.
morning, but it is afternoon in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I am in California today. That's why I put the Golden Gate behind me today.
Oh, nice.
I
Where are
do.
you at, Doreen?
I actually have a nice home in South Lake Tahoe that we come ski and hike and stuff. So
Yeah. Oh, where is it by? I mean, we have a
it's
cabin in Tahoe on South Lake Shore.
um. Oh, really? We're near. Well, we're in the Keys, but right on the
Oh,
edge of the Keys.
okay. We are right at Heavenly Valley, so we could literally
Oh,
walk to Heavenly.
yes. Well, we can't walk there, but it's about 10 to 15 minute drive. So
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
we're
we'll
getting
have to
we're getting
coordinate.
yes, for sure. Awesome.
Yeah. So, alrighty. Well, this meeting is going to be recorded. It is recorded. So hopefully it will be up on the website once we are done. That way other chapters can utilize it, and especially the ones that aren't here and have it. We were just saying like a Zoom in a box, something to be able to reflect back on. So I'd like to thank you all for being here today. Today we have, this is part of the NAWIC chapter leadership. It is a resource for providing the tools that chapters need. Any kind of questions, please feel free to ask. You could utilize the chat. This is very informal. I want this hour to be a safe, and spot that you could ask questions and have the resources to get the answer. And if we don't have the answer, we will make sure we find it and get back to you. Today, we are very, lucky to have Doreen Bartoldas with us, who is a past national president from 21-22. She is currently our NAWIC national parliamentarian. So she is the brains to our little chat, our NAWIC, and an excellent source to take advantage of. So it's almost like, I always say, a free lawyer in the works. So take advantage of asking any questions. She is currently a member at large and is part of the Northeast region. So, with that, I will turn it over to Doreen and lead our presentation today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. So glad to be here. I am open. I told Shona earlier, I'm open to questions. You can interrupt me. It sounds like a dry subject, and it could be. I do have a couple of videos, so bear with me when I start them and kind of move them into your screen so you can watch them. They're only like 2 or 3 minutes long, but I'll tell you, they'll just back up some of the stuff I'm telling you. So anyway, we're just going to go through the definition of a parliamentarian. It's not just NAWIC. We're not the only crazy people that use parliamentarians. A little bit about NAWIC bylaws and what you need to know as a parliamentarian. Is it for you? Do you need one in your chapter? And what makes an effective parliamentarian, in my mind anyway. And Robert's Rules of Order, going to give you a little background on that, and some other geeky stuff that I started getting into when I got asked to be parliamentarian. So let's move forward. So in Robert's Rules of Order, it does define it, and I always have Robert's Rules of Order on my desk, and we'll talk more about that later. And it's basically a consultant who advises the president and other officers, committees, and members on matters of parliamentary procedures. And the role during a meeting is purely advisory and a consultative one. The president has final say on matters of point of order or to answer parliamentary inquiries. So I advise the president, but she will be the final decision maker. So that. And I wanted to say not just NAWIC, because the US Congress has a parliamentarian. I know not a lot of people want to pay attention to politics these days, and that's fine. But there is a parliamentarian in the Senate as of 1927. So if you want to kind of look through this, but I just want to point this out. They're appointed by the Speaker, who is the chair of that house. So they're also in Congress. I don't know if there's a parliamentarian in Congress. I know there's one in Senate, but so I have watched some of the procedures just to kind of understand what's happening there. And I suggest you do too. So it's kind of becoming parliamentarian, and getting on the board kind of educated me into like Robert's rules, and then where did that take me, and how does that apply to my life? And it really is more out there than you think. So let's just watch this video quick.
I don't think we were able to hear the video.
Oh, you can't hear it?
No.
Oh, bummer. Maybe I have to wait. Let me open up further. Maybe let me try that again. Can you hear it?
No.
Oh, bummer. I guess what I'll have to do, I'll send you the links.
Okay.
They're on my
Somebody
presentation.
said you may have to go to the top and click the audio button.
Oh, should I try it one more time? Hang
Okay.
on. All right.
Gotta love
So,
technology.
yes, and I love when there's people out there who know how to do this. This is good.
Yes.
All right, so let me just, so if I open this up, feel free to unmute, and is it settings or?
So in the Zoom app, there should be at the top of your screen a button that says audio or settings, and in there it should be another button that says to play the audio in the meeting. But it would be in the Zoom app, not the YouTube.
Okay. Same as if it's speakers, same as system, test speaker, switch to phone audio, leave computer audio. Audio settings.
It should be in audio settings, I believe.
All right, I'm gonna put these on the, can you see these?
I can't see, no, I can't see your screen.
Oh, okay. Play sound when muting, unmuting mic, press and hold space to key. I'll give this one more minute and then we'll give up because I don't want to hold this up for so long. Live performance audio.
I'm trying to remember which one it is without like
Use
looking at
separate
it.
audio device to play ringtone simultaneously. No, that's not it. Share screen, Zoom apps, background effects, recording, profile, statistics, keyboard. All right. I'll send you the links. It's only a few minutes, but it talks about the role of the parliamentarian. And she's talking, the woman who they interviewed talks about the parliamentarian being, den mother, all this other stuff. So just a good video to watch. So I'll send out the presentation. If you guys want to grab that link, it'll be on the presentation.
Perfect.
So, okay. Bylaws. So for NAWIC, the parliamentarian needs to know NAWIC's bylaws for sure. We have in our bylaws, Section A, Article, this is 17, Parliamentary Authority. You also have it in your Section C. I'll show you that as well. Basically, it's telling you have to use we use Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. And, right now there's a 12th edition is the most newly revised. They revise it every year or two. Latest edition shall govern all proceedings of the association and the board of directors, except where inconsistent with those bylaws, and shall be subject to any standing rules which have been or may be adopted by the association. And myself as a parliamentarian, it's also in Section A. is appointed by the president, who advises the president or presiding officer upon request. She attends board meetings and her function is advisory only. She should be well informed on national bylaws and national policies and Robert's Rules of Order. So there is no, actually, if you see this, it doesn't say we have to be a NAWIC member, nor does it say that we have to, that we're actually, I realized, but we are on the board. I am a board member, but I'm a non-voting member. So therefore I do not give opinions, which is similar to the executive director. The executive director will be on the board and they do not vote. It's only the board of directors that vote. Your executive, officers and your board of and the directors, the regional directors, they're the ones who are allowed to vote. And I'm there for advisory only. Okay. So that's in our national bylaws. It's also in your section C for your chapters. This basically the same bylaws are there, kind of read exactly the same. So you can appoint a parliamentarian and we'll dig a little deeper into that. Or you can call me in to be a parliamentarian for a meeting and I'll tell you how that could happen and what we would need to do that. So also in section F, there are policies and procedures, many, and these are guidelines and procedures. And in there, we have these procedures for small board meetings, which is basically what most chapters adopt how to run a meeting using small board procedures. So I would encourage you to go through section F. I can actually send that to Shauna too, to put that up there too. I did prepare a thing for orientation to talk about meetings. So regular meetings in person include for the national board, pre-con, post-con, and a must mid-year meeting in May. And special meetings may be called by the president or by a quarter of board members. Business may be transacted by electronic meeting, etc. An electronic or telephonic vote will be conducted by roll call vote. And that's in Robert's Rules of Order. So we do follow Robert's Rules of Order in our small chapter meetings. So to note, there's some differences in voting. Face-to-face can be a show of hands or a call for aye or nay, and electronic requires a roll call vote. And you'll see that if you're joining and auditing our national board meetings, you'll see Kelly is lately just calling to see, asking for an aye or nay. And then after that, she calls for a roll call vote because it is a video conference call. And approvals of proposals or motions require a 2/3 vote of the quorum present. That's one of in our bylaws, and it's also Robert's Rules of Order. So main motions, anything you're voting on, requires 2/3 vote of the quorum present. And we could talk about quorum later. Also note that a disciplinary action, removal of an officer or member, or it's described in section Article 9, section 5 and 6, will require a ballot vote per Robert's Rules of Order 4519. So those are just some things I wanted to point out. There are differences, so make sure when you appoint a parliamentarian that you're all looking at, how you vote, how the meeting should proceed. Okay. Is a parliamentary for you, and this is where I want some participation. Feel free. We don't have a big group here, so I think you can unmute if you have something to say or raise your hand. I wanted to ask you if you run or are involved in your construction site meetings, and how are they going? How do you feel they go? Anybody want to chime in? Because I'll give you an example. When I first got on the national board, I was running meetings. I was a resident engineer, construction manager, and actually getting into NAWIC and becoming a president, right? You're a chapter president before you get on the national board. So running those meetings were very different than running my project meetings. And project meetings don't go per Robert's Rules of Order, right? So, but at project meetings, you're working on a particular project, and if you're running a good project meeting, you have an agenda, and you kind of at the end have action items. And we kind of do the same on the national board. But sometimes, things get a little unruly. People like to speak. Unless you're a really good chair of the meeting or a really good, strong construction manager, sometimes these things can get out of hand, right? Has anybody had that kind of experience?
Yes, I have.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So little training on Robert's rules helps you, but you can't really bring Robert's rules into your project site, right? So this is one of the things I learned with NAWIC, because when I got into NAWIC, it was probably more unruly than the site meetings, but I sort of, so let's talk a little bit about your board meetings. Do they look calm and happy like this one?
No.
No. But not like unhappy, but
Right.
definitely the reason why I'm here today. How about that?
There you go. Awesome. Okay, that's honest. Okay. So yeah, listen, the board meetings can go awry, and Robert's rules kind of gives us guidance, and so do our bylaws, gives us guidance on how these meetings go and how many vote. So it's good to know those small board procedures, how much, and making sure everybody's heard, things of that nature, and what it takes to vote, what it takes to kind of put together a motion. And like at progress meetings, sometimes things get tabled. You'll see maybe Kelly saying this, I'm creating a task force for this, and I'm creating, so somebody takes a problem and they create a task force. I mean, at project meetings, you could say, listen, this is a problem that needs to be discussed outside this progress meeting. Let's have a separate meeting about that. That's sort of like establishing a task force, right? So those are things to think about when you think about Robert's rules and bringing them into your meeting, and bringing the, motions, etc. What's the best thing about having a parliamentarian is they help you prepare. Okay. They help you prepare for the meeting. But I wanted to also point out, my understanding of the bylaws, my understanding of Robert rules, and I understood this when I became treasurer too. I was national treasurer, and I realized, whatever decisions you make and whatever, however you run a meeting or however you vote, or it's really about the members. The members pay to be a member of this association. All of you are members, and it's about member rights. And Robert's rules make sure that everyone is heard. So there might be a majority and then minority, and that's what's happening in the Senate with a parliamentarian, et cetera. That it's set up, our checks and balances and Robert's rules is set up so we hear the voice of the minority. So the minority or somebody has disagrees, they can be heard and they have a chance to influence others. That's really the goal of running things through a Robert's Rules of Order and, creating some kind of order around a meeting. Any questions yet? Or is anybody curious about something which I may be covering, but it's popping up in your brain right now?
No, I love the fact that you were able to bring in a work situation as well. Because I'm even thinking, oh shoot, I need to do an agenda for our next, foreman meetings that,
Right.
I always think of small, but it might make a difference. So I'm glad you brought, stuff we could
And it may-
utilize elsewhere.
Oh, for sure. And you know what? You may not have a parliamentarian there, but maybe you have like an office engineer or somebody who's going to be taking minutes, or somebody who's got sort of your assistant, and maybe you prepare for the meeting together and they can give you ideas of how things are going to go, and you kind of almost like Shauna, we prepare a script, right?
Right.
So I think you can run better meetings if you go in really prepared for
Right.
what's going to be discussed and the points you want to get across. And as a chair, as a president, you are steering the ship. As a construction manager, I was steering the ship, right? I knew where I thought I wanted things to go on the progress meetings in the project. So I would kind of push that out there and see where it went and see what everybody else's opinions. That means didn't mean I didn't change my mind, or the rest of the team didn't change their mind, but I needed to go in with, what's the purpose of this meeting and what goal are we trying to achieve as a result of this meeting. So that's what's really important about progress meetings and construction meetings. Also important about your board meetings, to be very prepared and be ready for anything that comes up. Okay.
Well,
And remember,
oh,
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
I just one comment is that I really appreciate, because although in our board meetings we do have an agenda, I really like that you emphasize that it is about the members, and that can be, your board or your general members, just giving them a voice. And it's something that we don't think about often, but there's always going to be the very bold personalities in your
Yes.
board, and then that really does kind of it gives an opportunity for some of the more mild personalities not to be heard. And I think that in phrasing, because everybody gets a little bit like, oh, Robert's rules, this is too hard, or this is too rigid or too formal.
Right.
But if you phrase it in a way, it's like, hey, this is so that everybody has a voice so that we're hearing X or Y, you know, that
Exactly.
who usually gets talked over and just ends up shutting down, you know? So I think that that's a really good call out. Thank you, Dorothy.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Yes.
Maureen. I
You're
do the
welcome.
agendas for our, I'm an assistant project manager. I do our agendas for our construction meetings. And
Yes.
you really kind of brought something to light here about how I, as the assistant project manager for the GC, could potentially, without saying I'm the parliamentarian, still be looking out for these items.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Yes. Yes. And, so NAWIC should be helping you in that way, bringing it back to, and I don't think a lot of people make that connection. So I'm hoping you do. It's about, like Elizabeth reiterated, it's about everybody being heard. It's about the members. And you can set the tone. If you listen to Kelly, if you get a chance to audit one of her meetings, I'll ask Amber or Shauna to put up what's the next meeting that is available, but you can go on the website. You can all audit the national board meetings, and you will see Kelly kind of set the tone in the beginning. She kind of introduces, she talks about where we're going as a board. She kind of sets the tone of the meeting in the very beginning of the meeting. She's looking for a lot of collaboration, and she's starting to get it. And that doesn't mean everybody agrees on everything. So I hope you do audit some board meetings and watch what happens there. And Ashley sent me a beautiful note the other day. Thank you, Ashley, that she's been auditing. So I appreciate that. Okay. I have another, I know you're not going to see sound, but I want you to see the end of this. So.
When I started drinking warm water.
Not the commercial. Hang on. Let's see if I can.
That we heard.
You heard that one?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, let's play it then. Okay.
Oh, well, now it went off.
Well, he does a lot of typing, so. You can read lips. So these you can read, right? So one thing he's saying here, it's used in almost all organizations, a parliamentarian. A parliamentarian is everywhere. Let's see. Okay, let's get to this, preparing for a meeting. I'm going to stop it there. So he talked about, being there for the members, what we were just discussing. But then he talks about preparing for a meeting as a parliamentarian. He also talked a little bit about the fact that there's a lot of associations that have parliamentarians. Just about every board has a parliamentarian or uses Robert's Rules of Order or have a bylaw. So we are not unique in that respect. We may seem strict on that in a way, but I think it's just a matter of we want organized, happy board meetings, and we want you to succeed in your leadership within NAWIC. And this is one of the ways that's helpful, right?
So this 12-foot tall sports tile would need to be set back at least 6 feet instead of 2 feet to keep the forces low
Mitzi,
enough
if you could
to
mute.
not trigger a cave-in.
Mitzi?
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Okay, so we talked about a little bit of this, but it's reviewing all the organization's governing documents. So over my tenure, I've had a chance to look at our bylaws. The bylaws have changed a little bit. We made adjustments, we voted on changing some bylaws, et cetera. And then when I became president-elect, I really started studying Robert's Rules of Order. And I had a parliamentarian in Connie Leppert. She was my parliamentarian. And actually Kelly Ost, who's the current president, was my secretary. So as president, I would sit down with Kelly and Connie together and prepare for the meetings and say, here's what's coming up on the agenda. Here's the proposals that are coming up. I would put together my script with them. Connie would help me prepare, like, how does this vote? How do we call for a motion? What do we say to call for that motion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I would be totally prepared. I had a script for every single meeting that would help me guide me through the meeting. I even had in that script, what happens if we say no? Or what happens if I can't get consensus on this? Then I am going to create a task order for this problem. What happens if, so I also had in that script, telling myself, these are the things, this is how I'm going to steer the ship if I need to, right? So board members could vote in a certain way, great. If there's consensus and there's a majority vote or a 2/3 vote for the motion, then we're done and that's the action, right? It's all approved. But if there's disagreement, I can kind of close the discussion and say, listen, I'm going to table this. We may develop a task force. So there's always these options that was always the options in my script. So part of my job now is Kelly's doing the same thing and Shauna's getting involved now because she's our secretary, is that Kelly's preparing a script. She's, looking at the agenda. We put in agenda on Govenda. Shauna and I are both looking at it. I'm giving ideas on how this is going to go. Kelly prepares a script and Shauna then is ready to be secretary and respond to it. So she's part of our preparation, which is great because then we get ideas from her also. And then during the meeting, I preside over the meeting. And if you're watching, you will see I sit there. I try not to, I am not allowed to give opinions, basically. It's not my job to give opinions, but if I'm called upon to answer a question, but you will see, we haven't had all the smoothest meetings in the world. And when I see Kelly is kind of feeling, I will ask on video meetings, you will say, I want to confer with you, and I'll get her on the phone to have a private discussion with her and give her an advisor on how to move forward. Now, listen, when she gets back off the phone with me, she has not always done exactly what I asked, but she listened to my advice. She kind of gives me what she's thinking. And then she, as the presiding officer, can make the decision afterward. But she's making an educated decision, and I'm helping her move the meeting forward or move the meeting, kind of pace the meeting as well. So that's what I see as my job. Okay. So that I will send the link to. It's not really that great. So now I have to get this off my screen. Okay. So again, I kind of just said all this, reviewing the governing documents, reviewing the meeting materials, meeting with and preparing the presiding officer, which is you as president of your chapters, and which is Kelly Ost as national president, and drafting a script. I think you should do that as chapter president. Prepare a script for yourself. And if you have somebody you trust, or if you want to, if you know a contentious meeting is coming up, do your best to prepare for it. And drafting yourself a script, do your agenda and then draft a script on, how to move these motions along. And if anybody wants more advice, please feel free to reach out to me. I didn't put my information up there, but bartnawick@gmail.com, and Shauna can put that in the notes too. bartnawick@gmail.com. Please, if there's any questions, I can also sit in and help you prepare for if you're having a big meeting coming up and you just feel like you need that support. Please let me know and I'll see what I can do to help you. I'm not totally free. I actually have a couple of jobs, but I do have flexibility. So if there's some way I can help you, let me know. And then, like I said, after the script, I then serve as parliamentarian during the meeting. And that's for me to advise the presiding officer on that year. So be an effective parliamentarian. I think I'm effective. I think I am. I think Kelly has thanked me, and I'm glad. That's my job. I was asked to be parliamentarian, and I did my best to study up and be an effective one. So one of the things is to have tenure working on the chapter and or the national board. I think for NAWIC, that's pretty important. you have probably have a lot of, say, tenured members, even people who might be retired but are still a member. They might be a good parliamentarian, since they don't have a vote. And a retired member might be the best member for parliamentarian. And you might want to bring them in if they have, maybe they have served a director in the past, or they've been chapter president in the past, and they've just, they're all about NAWIC. I would say that's a good person to bring in as your parliamentarian, but it's up to you, and it's got to be somebody who's going to support you and advise you. If they have legal background, that's great. And like I said, they don't have to be a member. You may know somebody who's, but sometimes they charge a fee. And then if they charge a fee, you have to get approval from your board to hire a parliamentarian. Okay. Because there are people who are professional parliamentarians, and a lot of lawyers are kind of natural parliamentarians. If anybody knows Jessica Murphy, she's played parliamentarian a few times for us on the Northeast, and she's awesome. Okay, because they know how to interpret things, and they know how to advise you. So also you have to remain neutral to be effective. You have no opinions, and you also don't have a vote. So to be that kind of an effective parliamentarian, you're there for every member, right? You're there to advise, and I am there to support Kelly. Kelly trusts me, and I trust Kelly, so that's why she brought me in as her parliamentarian. But like I said, I advise her, and then it's up to her. And my advice is based on Robert's rules and, history, etc. So yeah, have the working knowledge of Robert's rules and NAWIC operations manual. Have a copy of both on hand. Now, I always sit down, you don't see it, but I will show you. It's the next slide. These two things are on my desk, always. I actually have them in Tahoe with me. Well, because I was doing this presentation, but also in case something came up. I don't know if you can see it. See Robert's Rule. See all my little Post-its? I've been through these things a lot. When something comes up, it's like, okay, we got to vote on this kind of motion. Does that get a ballot vote? Does that get a 2/3 vote? Does it get a majority vote? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are things. And you have some of those, Shona shared some quick reference guides for how votes should go. So bylaws have a few places where they specifically say you need a 2/3 vote for this, or 3/4, or whatever it is. They're in the bylaws, but the rest goes per Robert's rules. And one thing to remember is when you're voting for a person, elections are always ballots. In other words, those are anonymous votes by ballot. And the same thing if you're taking a disciplinary action, which we hope doesn't happen, but if you're taking a disciplinary action and voting somebody off the board, there is a procedure, and I can help you with procedures if that's what you're looking for, but that takes a ballot vote as well. Okay, and there's rules around that in our bylaws. So this is a nice quick thing to get, as it's a quick reference guide. I always go here and to the bigger Robert's Rules, because this will reference the bigger Robert's Rules as well. But this is called the Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised in brief. Very small, carry it around with you. I do a lot of airplane flying, so carrying the bigger one is a bit heavy, but this one is pretty light. So yes, so those are totally chewed up and flipped through a lot. So I did that all yesterday. Just kidding. It's been going on for months. Those Post-its, and I don't want to take them out. I'm like, it might come up again, and I should just make myself some notes. So, and I'm just trying to make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover.
And just as a reminder to
Yeah.
the people on the call, we will get the PowerPoint and, all the other necessary documents that went along with this presentation. We'll put it up on the website, so you have it handy and can reflect back on.
Great. And if there's anything else you need, let me know. Okay, geeky stuff, just quick. When Kelly asked me to be parliamentarian, I have a daughter, Katie, by the way, just saying. I started looking into where can you find more information? There are two associations. There's actually more associations. Like some states have associations of parliamentarians. You can become a certified parliamentarian. I started looking into that, and I actually took a online course one day and sat there with other people learning how to write bylaws and stuff. So I started to get geeky. I want to continue to get geeky, but I've gotten busier. But these are two associations. Like, if you want to join, they're not expensive. They're like $125, but they give you access to like forums. Like, I've gone and asked some questions in the forums, where I was kind of like, I don't know if we're doing this right. This bylaw change doesn't seem like it's, legal. I don't know, not legal, but proper. So I can go in there and kind of ask the question or look for other discussion. So that's why I joined the American Institute of Parliamentarians, so I could get on their discussion boards, and I took a course too. I'm not certified, but I'm probably certifiable, Shauna, but I'm not certified. So that's just some geeky stuff. If you really want to, if you were interested in being a true parliamentarian and wanted to kind of look into how that really works. There were a lot of gray-haired people on the thing like me, which was interesting, but there's a lot of attorneys too who become certified parliamentarians. NAWIC, we use Tecker Consulting, and they do have certified parliamentarians on their staff. They have suggested to us in the past, and I think they did at board orientation, Jody and Shauna, you were both listening in. He did suggest, or on a call, I forget, Mr. Tecker suggested, he goes, you might want to hire a parliamentarian in the future, to bring somebody in totally neutral. That's a possibility, and that might be a good thing for us, to kind of keep, everything neutral and have a parliamentarian really help us. We're not there yet, I don't think, but that was an interesting suggestion, and there is such a thing as a professional parliamentarian that could help us if we needed it. So with that, I think that's what I had, and I'm really open to questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Doreen. A lot of information. And I think, every group's different, but it's so valuable to have somebody as a leader guiding, that board, the group, whatever it is. I mean, it's funny we brought up parliamentarian because even yesterday, my mom is very involved in women's groups. So,
Yeah.
every city has like a Santa Clara Women's Club, Los Gatos, whatever it is. And they were doing their nomination committees, and they need a parliamentarian, I guess, there as part of it to like open it up. So every group's a little bit different, but it was funny because my mom said, well, what should we do here? And I'm like, isn't this with your group? I'm with NAWIC, but they all run very similar. I mean, because they are, governed by, the Mr.
Yes.
Robert, and
Yes.
kind of, similar rules, just different. So it was kind of, funny to hear that. But see, anybody could do it, whether NAWIC's helping a women's club group or, vice versa.
What's interesting is this American Institute of Parliamentarians, they develop their own standards, which are similar to Robert's rules, but they're a little more definitive, which is kind of interesting. And some organizations adopt these standards. Very similar, like I said, they don't really veer off Robert's rules too much, but they're a little more definitive. Like, Robert's rules sometimes leaves things open to interpretation. But I got their book too, and it was kind of interesting to read through it. It kind of helped with, they're a little more organized. Robert's rules is all over the place. You have to go to the index and go back and forth, and there's 5 different places. So you have to kind of read all of them to kind of cross-reference. But the American Institute of Parliamentarians is another reference that could be put into somebody's bylaws as the sort of governing. It's interesting. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So, but it's very similar to Robert's rules, but Robert's rules is the most common and totally out there. So anyway, just wanted to point that out. Okay. Those are balanced.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you want to bring up that may be happening in your chapter that you need some advice from Doreen, since we have her on the phone right now? I'm sure if you're going through something, either we've experienced it or we are going through it, or maybe we will be going through it. So
we could, if somebody feels like they want to, we can turn out the recording. And if you feel better about talking about stuff with this group.
Absolutely.